Hey there! Silly Story here, bringing you another silly tale for everyone to enjoy. I'm Isabella Martin. Bold, brilliant, and, okay, maybe slightly unhinged. When I fell for Noah Wilson, the calm, sophisticated architect with the emotional range of a houseplant, most people would have taken the hint and moved on. Not me. Nope. I took it as a challenge. Heartbreak? Please. I thrive on the thrill of the impossible. Sure, Noah barely notices me, but minor details like that have never stopped a determined woman. My friends? They've practically staged interventions. Isabella, find someone who actually likes you back. They say. But where's the fun in that? Easy isn't my style. I want Noah. And with my charm, wit, and just the right dash of chaos, I'll get him. Welcome to Operation Crack Noah Wilson. My carefully chaotic plan involving awkward yoga classes, random run-ins, and enough coffee to fuel a small country. This isn't just about love. It's about persistence. And maybe making Noah a little crazy along the way. Story begins. Make sure to visit our YouTube channel. Show some love by hitting like, sharing it with someone you know, and subscribing so you can be part of this channel's journey. Isabella Martin doesn't just thrive, she dominates in her fast-paced life as a high-powered marketing executive in a bustling metropolitan city. Seriously, I don't just get by at work, I run it. I'm the person who schedules my lunch breaks down to the exact minute and has color-coded folders for everything. Yes, everything. People either adore me or are terrified of me, and I'm perfectly okay with that. My wit is sharp enough to cut glass, my attitude fearless enough to make even the most seasoned executives think twice, and my ambition. Well, let's just say if ambition were a sport, I'd have an Olympic gold medal. My life is a symphony of efficiency. Deadlines. I crush them. Boardroom presentations. I slay them with the kind of flair that makes my colleagues look like they're giving a PowerPoint presentation in slow motion. And even my downtime is optimized. Spin class at 6 a.m., green smoothie by 7, and at my desk by 8 because early birds don't just get the worm. They devour it, market it, and sell it back for a profit. Who needs sleep when you've got deadlines to meet and goals to shatter? Now, my friends, they're a different story. They balance me out in ways I didn't know I needed. There's Mia, the hopeless romantic, who's convinced life is one big rom-com. And it's just a matter of time before I meet my Prince Charming. Spoiler alert. Mia thinks every man I meet is the one. Derek, on the other hand, is the cynical realist who side-days everything in existence, including my career choices. And Tara, well, Tara's the calm, grounding force who's perfected the art of side-eyeing Derek right back. All while maintaining a level of zen I can only dream of achieving in the midst of my third back-to-back meeting of We're a tight-knit group, and every week, we gather for our wine and wine night, a sacred tradition where we solve the world's problems one bottle at a time. In theory, we talk about everything from global politics to the existential dread of adulthood. But in practice, it's mostly about me venting about how I can't find a man who can keep up with my fabulousness. And that's the thing, my love life is non-existent. I'm not even talking about being single and loving it. I'm talking about non-existent. It's not even on the back burner. It's on a separate stove in a different house, possibly abandoned altogether. The idea of love in my life is as foreign as yoga is to my overly tight hamstrings. Sure, my friends love to tease me about it, poking fun at my lack of plus ones and the fact that I spend Valentine's Day with a pint of ice cream and a spreadsheet of all my projects, but I brush it off with my signature sarcastic grin, saying, I'm just too intense for romance. Men can't handle this level of fabulous, and I mean it. It's a survival tactic. But deep down, when I'm alone at night, beneath the piles of reports and glossy marketing brochures, a tiny voice wonders if there's more to life than quarterly reports and perfectly planned presentations. Enter Noah Wilson. He walks into my life like a soft breeze on a summer day, and I'm pretty sure I've just been hit by a truck. Where I'm all bold entrances and commanding presence, Noah is the complete opposite, calm, reserved, and utterly unshakable. He doesn't need to prove anything. He's an architect, which immediately sounds way cooler than what I do. And he carries this quiet confidence that makes me feel like I'm about to make a fool of myself at any given moment. He speaks softly, with purpose. He notices details that I didn't even know existed. The texture of a building's facade, the curve of a staircase, and apparently, my inability to stop talking when I get nervous. It all started at the charity gala. You know the type, fancy venue. Overly polite servers offering tiny appetizers that are more decorative than edible. and a sea of people pretending to care about something noble while secretly just hoping to network or snag a good Instagram pic. I was there doing my usual thing, working the room, dazzling everyone with my charm and wit, and yes, mentally categorizing who was worth my time and who was not. It's practically a sport for me. I was halfway through charming a tech billionaire into sponsoring our latest marketing initiative when I saw him. Noah Wilson. He wasn't dressed to impress, which somehow made him more noticeable. No flashy tie, no exaggerated watch flaunting his wealth. Just a well-fitted suit, and easy posture. And this self-assured air that said, I don't need to try hard, because I'm already cooler than all of you. Naturally, I was intrigued. I mean, most men in these situations either fall into one of two camps. The overeager networker who tries too hard to impress me with their LinkedIn stats, or the cocktail-fueled flirt who thinks a bad pickup line is endearing. But Noah, he didn't fit either mold. He was just there, calm, collected, unbothered. So, I did what any confident, self-assured woman would do. I made my move. I sauntered over, champagne flute in hand, my most dazzling smile locked and loaded. Hi there, I'm Isabella Martin. Pause for effect, because my name usually sparks at least some recognition. Nice to meet you, he said. Nice to meet you. That was it. No double take. No, oh, I've heard of you. Not even a glimmer of awe at my perfectly tailored gown that had already turned heads all night. Just polite indifference. At first, I thought he hadn't heard me properly. So, naturally, I upped the charm. And you are Noah Wilson. He extended his hand. Firm shake, brief eye contact. And then he turned back to the conversation he was having before I walked up. Now, let me be clear. This is not how things usually go for me. Typically, the moment I introduce myself, people are either scrambling to make an impression or nervously fumbling their words. But this guy, he just went back to talking about architecture, or something equally serene with another guest. He didn't even try to engage me further. I walked away, plastering a polite smile on my face, because I refused to let anyone see me flustered. But inside, I was spiraling. Who is this guy? Why isn't he captivated by my undeniable charm? Is he some sort of robot? Or maybe he's playing hard to get? Either way, I couldn't let it go. By the time I made it back to my friends, I was in full analysis mode. Mia, Derek, Tara, you won't believe this, I said, grabbing a fresh glass of champagne. There's this guy, Noah Wilson, and he brushed me off. Mia gasped, like I just told her someone insulted Beyonce. No way, maybe he's shy. Derek laughed so hard he nearly spilled his wine. Shy? More like immune. Guess you finally met someone who doesn't fall for your charm parade. Tara, the ever-pragmatic one, just raised an eyebrow. Maybe he's not your type? Or maybe crazy thought you're not his type. I scoffed, but the thought lingered. Who was this guy? And why did he seem so untouchable? Most importantly, why couldn't I stop thinking about him? By the end of the night, I wasn't just intrigued, I was hooked. This wasn't just attraction. No, this was a challenge. And if there's one thing I can't resist, it's a challenge. Noah Wilson may have been calm, cool, and collected, but he had no idea who he was dealing with. Operation Crack Noah Wilson was officially underway. And trust me, I don't lose. After the Noah incident, yes, it deserves capital letters. I did what any rational, mature adult would do when faced with an emotionally perplexing situation. I gathered my troops, and by troops, I mean my 3 best friends, who collectively form the most dysfunctional yet oddly effective support system on the planet. We met at our usual spot for wine night, a cozy little bar that practically has our names engraved on a booth. I stormed in, dramatically tossing my purse onto the table like I was about to deliver breaking news. Okay, guys, emergency meeting. I need strategies. We're talking DEFCON 1. Mia, the hopeless romantic, practically squealed with excitement. Is this about Noah? Please tell me it's about Noah. She clasped her hands together like she was about to manifest a Hallmark movie. Derek, the cynic, snorted into his beer. Let me guess. Tall, dark, and indifferent hasn't fallen head over heels for you yet. And now you're spiraling. First of all, I said, leveling him with a glare, I do not spiral. I strategize. And second of all, yes, it's about Noah. He's a puzzle, and I intend to solve him. Tara, always the calm and collected one, took a sip of her wine and raised an eyebrow. Are you sure this isn't about your ego? I mean, maybe he's just not interested. I groaned. Not interested? Tara, have you met me? Everyone is interested. This is uncharted territory, and I need a plan. Mia clapped her hands, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Okay, let's go full rom-com. Have you tried writing him a heartfelt letter? Or leaving mysterious little notes around? Maybe a grand romantic gesture, like renting a horse and riding it into his office. I stared at her. Mia, I'm trying to win a man's heart, not stage a medieval joust. Derek nearly choked on his beer. Please, can we not turn this into a Disney special? You're chasing a guy who clearly values peace and quiet. Maybe show him you can be. I don't know, normal. I rolled my eyes. Normal is overrated. Besides, if I start acting normal, he'll think I've been abducted by aliens. Tara sighed. All I'm saying is, don't lose yourself in this. Be real. If he likes you, great. If not, you'll survive. You've survived worse. Remember that time you accidentally CC'd the entire company on your email about office coffee being liquid to spare? I wince. Point taken. But this is different. This isn't just about him liking me, it's about cracking the code. Noah Wilson is my Mount Everest, and I'm determined to reach the summit. Derek leaned back in his chair, smirking. Operation Crack Noah Wilson. Huh. Sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Operation Crack Noah Wilson. Mia gasped, delighted. Oh, I love it. It's bold. It's passionate. It's ridiculous, Derek muttered. It's perfect, I declared, ignoring Derek's eye roll. I'm not talking about forcing him to love me, just giving him the opportunity to see how amazing I am. Clearly, he's missed the memo. Tara shook her head, smiling despite herself. Just promise us you'll keep your dignity intact. I raised my glass. Dignity is overrated. I'll keep my humor intact. Cheers to that. We clinked glasses. And despite their mixed reactions, I knew they had my back. Sure, their advice ranged from helpful to borderline absurd. But that's what made them the best support system ever. And with their input, no matter how questionable, I was ready to take Operation Crack Noah Wilson to the next level. After all, Noah Wilson might be calm, cool, and collected, but he hadn't seen the full force of Isabella Martin in action. Yet, look, I've always been the queen of control. My life is a color-coded calendar of success. Meetings meticulously scheduled, tasks conquered with military precision, and emotions firmly tucked behind my I've got this smile. I didn't just survive in the high-stakes world of marketing, I thrived. There was no problem I couldn't solve with a well-placed email or perfectly executed pitch. Until Noah Wilson. Somehow, this calm, quietly confident architect had waltzed into my life and flipped my world upside down. And instead of brushing it off and moving on like any sane person would, I found myself intrigued. No, scratch that, I was obsessed. I had to figure him out. Who was this guy who could resist my charm? Why wasn't he falling into line like everyone else? So, I did what any highly logical, completely reasonable woman would do. I dove headfirst into Operation Crack Noah Wilson. Subtlety, out the window. Logic, left in the dust. I was officially winging it, and I was determined to make him notice. Let me tell you something. The road to romance is not paved with roses and champagne. Oh no, it's littered with sprained ankles, burnt dinners, and yoga-related trauma. It all started at the company picnic, a perfect opportunity to show Noah that I'm not just a marketing powerhouse, but also an athletic marvel. I figured if he saw me dominating a game of touch football, he'd finally get that I'm the total package. Brains, charm, and biceps. Unfortunately, my brain forgot to send the memo to my legs. There I was, sprinting across the field like a gazelle, more like a gazelle who hadn't stretched in years, when I spotted Noah watching from the sidelines. This is it, Isabella. Show him you're sporty, I thought. So, naturally, I pushed myself harder, focusing on looking effortlessly athletic. Big mistake. In my attempt to catch the ball, I miscalculated and ended up tripping over absolutely nothing. 1 second, I was soaring. The next, I was a human lawn ornament. My ankle twisted in a way ankles are not supposed to twist, and I went down with a dramatic yelp. Noah rushed over, concern in his eyes. Are you okay? He asked, crouching next to me. Now, this should have been my moment to win some sympathy points. But what did I do? I laughed, maniacally. Oh, totally fine. Just demonstrating a new kind of tackle, I said through gritted teeth. He didn't laugh. He just helped me up, his hand warm on my arm, and escorted me to the sidelines. Not exactly the triumphant moment I had envisioned. Undeterred, I decided my next move would involve a different battlefield. The kitchen. Fast forward to the charity auction, where I volunteered to prepare dinner. My logic. Noah would be impressed by my culinary skills. What could go wrong? Apparently, everything. Turns out, there's a fine line between flambe and full-blown fire hazard. 1 second, I was proudly serving a perfectly seared dish, and the next, flames were licking the ceiling. Someone screamed, someone else yelled for water, and before I knew it, the fire alarm blared, sprinklers rained down, and guests scattered like I'd just announced a tax audit. Noah, Hello, he was there watching me from across the room, his mouth twitching as if he were fighting a smile. I stood there, soaked, humiliated, and holding a charred pan. Dinner is served, I muttered to no one in particular. You'd think I'd have learned my lesson. But no, I decided to go full zen with my next move. Noah frequented a local yoga class, so naturally, I signed up. Show him you can be calm, graceful, centered, I thought. Spoiler alert, I was none of those things. Now, I'll be honest, I'm about as flexible as a steel beam. My idea of stretching is reaching for the remote. But did that stop me? Nope. I marched into that yoga studio with a brand new mat, wearing leggings that cost more than my monthly coffee budget, and a confidence that was as fake as my enthusiasm for downward dog. I positioned myself strategically 2 mats away from Noah, close enough to catch his eye, far enough to avoid immediate judgment when I inevitably toppled over. The instructor greeted us with a serene smile. Let's focus on our breath, find our center, she said in that soothing yoga voice that made me want to simultaneously nap and roll my eyes. I was doing okay for the first 5 minutes. Breathing, easy, stretching, manageable. Then came the warrior poses. Hold your balance. Find your strength, the instructor cooed. Strength? Sure. Balance? Not so much. My legs wobbled, my arms flailed, and before I knew it, I was collapsing like a Jenga tower. To make matters worse, I locked eyes with Noah mid-fall. He raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. Great. Now he thinks I'm a yoga imposter and a human hazard. After class, I limped out, pretending I wasn't dying inside. See you next week, I chirped to the instructor, as if I hadn't just caused a minor yoga apocalypse. Noah smiled politely, but I swear I saw a smirk. Next stop, his favorite coffee shop. I became a regular overnight, memorizing the barista's names and mastering my oh wow, fancy meeting you here expression. I'd casually bump into him, sometimes literally. Noah, oh my gosh, what a coincidence, I'd exclaim, clutching my totally unplanned latte. Hi, Isabella, he'd reply, his tone suspiciously neutral. This became our routine. Coffee encounters turned into small chats. Small chats turned into me overanalyzing his every word. Was he warming up to me, or just too polite to flee? My friends, of course, had varying opinions on my tactics. You're showing initiative, Mia cheered. You're showing insanity, Derek countered. You're showing up at his coffee shop way too often, Tara added, sipping her wine like she was moderating an intervention. But I didn't care. What started as a fun game had turned into an all-consuming mission. Every coincidental meeting, every yoga disaster, every awkward encounter, it all fueled my detonation. I was no longer just Isabella Martin, marketing executive extraordinaire. I was Isabella Martin, woman on a mission. And sure, my carefully constructed world of control was in shambles. But who needs control when you've got passion? Right? Right. This was my departure from the safety of routine. A grand, messy leap into the unknown. And I was determined to see through, no matter how many yoga mats or coffee cups it took. Okay, so maybe my track record wasn't exactly stellar. Between the yoga fiasco, the fire alarm incident at the charity auction, and the unexpected encounters at the coffee shop, turns out, there's such a thing as too many coincidental meetings. I was starting to feel like a walking disaster zone, but then, something magical happened. Noah started giving me attention. It was subtle at first. At the coffee shop, he started lingering a little longer when we bumped into each other, like he was trying to milk the awkwardness for a bit longer. And I always notice, that he would laugh just a little too hard at my jokes, even the ones that were only half funny. Was he secretly a fan of my sarcasm? Or was he just too nice to tell me that my humor was the verbal equivalent of a flaming yoga mat? Then, the real breakthrough came at work. We were in a group meeting, and Noah did the unthinkable. He sought me out. He casually leaned toward me during a discussion about project timelines, his body language open, relaxed almost like he was interested. I was so stunned, I nearly spilled my coffee. But there it was, proof that my unique approach was working. Noah, Mr. Calm, cool, and collected, was now seeking me out in group settings. The man was officially on the hook. This called for something bold, something unforgettable, and I wasn't about to back down now. No more subtlety. No more coincidental run-ins. I was going full throttle. Enter the gala? The annual charity gala was the event of the season. Fancy dresses, champagne, a room full of people pretending not to care about the free appetizers. This was the perfect opportunity for my pisty racist in something so audacious. So Isabella Martin, that Noah would have no choice but to admit defeat. The plan was simple. Handcuff myself to Noah. Not in a criminal way, obviously. I'm not a complete lunatic. but in a symbolic I'm committed to this pursuit and there's no escape now kind of way. I could already see it me, looking utterly fabulous in a sparkly dress, Noah looking slightly bemused, and the two of us handcuffed together like a couple of rebellious teenagers who couldn't follow basic social rules. Poetry. I spent an hour before the event practicing how to accidentally slip the handcuffs onto his wrist. I even rehearsed a cute line to say afterward, like oops. Looks like we're stuck together for the night. It was going to be a moment. The night of the gala arrived, and I was ready. My dress was dazzling. My hair was flawless, thanks. 5 YouTube tutorials, and I had the handcuffs safely tucked into my clutch. I was ready to make my move. I spotted Noah from across the room, talking to a group of people. His immunity to my charm had finally cracked, and now it was time to seal the deal. I casually approached, flashed him my most dazzling smile, and with the grace of a ninja, I slid the handcuffs over his wrist. Well, I said, feigning surprise, this is awkward, but I guess we're in this together now. I was expecting shock, maybe even a hint of panic. Instead, Noah blinked, then smiled. Not an I'm trying not to laugh smile, but an actual, full-on grin. You really go all in, don't you? Oh no, but instead of backing down, I decided to lean into it. Well, I said, adjusting my stance to stand taller. Now that we're officially attached, why don't we dance? Noah raised an eyebrow. You really are something else, aren't you? I winked. What can I say? When I set my sights on something, I'm in it for the long haul. He chuckled. You know that moment when you realize that everything you've been working for, every single coincidental coffee encounter, every yoga class disaster, and every handcuff-induced humiliation, was all just one giant, gleamingly obvious joke. Yeah, that moment happened to me in the most spectacularly terrible way. It was a Monday afternoon because when life is going to ruin you, it always picks the most inconvenient time. I was at work, pretending to be a functioning adult, when I overheard a conversation that would shake me to my very core. Noah, my enigmatic architect crush, was standing with his friend Alex by the coffee machine, and they were talking and laughing. At first, I didn't think much of it, just two guys bonding over some inside joke, right? But then, I caught a few words that made my stomach drop to the floor. She's really got it bad, huh? Alex chuckled. Yeah, Noah replied, sounding almost amused. I mean, I'm not sure she knows it, but it's kind of cute how hard she's trying. Hard she's trying. I froze. My brain tried to process what I had just heard, but it felt like I'd been hit in the chest with a bag of bricks. It was like a punchline to a joke I hadn't even realized I was the butt of. Noah, the man I had been running headfirst into disaster, after disaster 4, wasn't moved by my relentless pursuit. He was laughing at me. I stood there, like an idiot, pretending to look busy as my heart plummeted into my stomach. He wasn't intrigued. He wasn't impressed. He wasn't even a little bit charmed. He had been aware of my entire operation, my charm offensive, the whole damn thing, and he'd been toying with me. The worst part, he wasn't even being mean about it. He was just amused, like I was some kind of lovable train wreck that he didn't mind watching from a safe distance. It was like all the air had been sucked out of the room. I felt my face burn with humiliation. That smirk of his, that quiet, bemused smile he gave me after every yoga catastrophe, every coffee shop encounter, that was him knowing. And I had played right into it. I wanted to confront him. Oh, trust me, the urge to march over, rip the handcuffs off his wrist, metaphorically. Of course I'd left those in a drawer somewhere, thank God, and give him a piece of my mind was strong. But I didn't. I stood there, a deer caught in headlights, listening to the sound of my own delusions crashing down around me. By the time I managed to pull myself together, the weight of everything hit me like a ton of bricks. How had I been so blind? How had I not seen it? I felt sick, betrayed, not just by Noah, who had been playing me for laughs this whole time, but by myself. How could I have let myself become so vulnerable, so obsessed with winning someone over that I couldn't see the writing on the wall? I left work early that day, which is saying something because I never leave early. But the thought of seeing Noah again, knowing he was fully aware of just how much I had humiliated myself, made me want to crawl into a hole and never come out. I retreated into my apartment, stripped off the facade of confident marketing executive, and collapsed into a heap of self-pity and ice cream. Noah had shattered my ego in one fell swoop, and I wasn't sure who was worse, him, for being a jerk, or me, for letting myself fall for it in the first place. That night I made a decision. I was done. No more chasing. No more embarrassing yoga moves. No more coincidental coffee shop meetings. I would quit Operation Crack Noah Wilson and quit caring about Noah Wilson cold turkey. I deleted the yoga class from my calendar, I unsubscribed from the coffee shop's newsletter. I even considered blocking Noah's number. But then I remembered that we'd never actually exchanged numbers, so progress. I was done with him, done with my ridiculous infatuation, and done with being the punchline of a joke I didn't even know I was in. And as I sat there in the dark, ice cream spoon in hand, I told myself no more. I would never chase after someone again. Not Noah, not anyone, because clearly I was terrible at it.
Noah's perspective. You know that saying, the treasure is found when you least expect it? Yeah, I used to roll my eyes at cliches like that. Treasure, to me, was about structure, success, and stability. Gold, diamonds, ancient artifacts, none of that mattered. What mattered was control. My life was a blueprint, and I liked it that way. Until Isabella Martin bulldozed through it and turned everything I thought I wanted into chaos. And then she was gone. I didn't realize what I was missing until she wasn't there anymore. At first, I was relieved. I mean, who wouldn't be? Gone were the random coffee shop encounters that were a little too frequent to be coincidental. No more yoga classes where she'd show up in the back row, pretending she didn't see me until after class. No more whirlwind entrances, turning my perfectly ordered world into a comedy of errors. I should have felt peace. Instead, my life felt hollow. I told myself it was just an adjustment period. Things would settle back into place. But they didn't. The first sign, I was late to work. Me. Late, not just once but consistently. Without Isabella accidentally spilling coffee on my suit or stopping me mid-rush with some outlandish story, I'd lost my rhythm. And my apartment? Disaster zone. Clothes everywhere. Dishes in the sink. I could barely recognize the place. It was like I'd become a stranger to my own life. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I was overworked. Maybe I needed a vacation. But deep down I knew the truth. I missed her. It wasn't just her presence. It was her unpredictability. I missed the way she'd somehow turn a simple walk into an adventure. The way she'd struggle with something as mundane as a jar of pickles, turning it into a three-person ordeal. The way she took life by the horns and dragged me along for the ride, whether I wanted to or not. I caught myself smiling at random memories, her tripping over her own feet, then laughing it off like it was part of the plan. Or that time she insisted on taking the long route to work just to shake things up. I didn't admit it then, but I liked it. I liked her. And then it hit me. I didn't miss her despite the madness. I missed her because of it. Without her, my life was back to being perfectly predictable and it was unbearable. I needed her chaos, her energy, the way she embraced the unpredictable, pulling me out of my carefully constructed bubble. As I sat at my office, staring out the window, I couldn't help but wonder how I ever thought I could live without her. Love wasn't about control. It wasn't about keeping everything in neat, little boxes. It was about letting go, embracing the mess, and finding joy in the unexpected. And if I wanted Isabella back, I'd have to prove I was ready for that. Ready to let her in, chaos and all. She wasn't gonna make it easy, I knew that much. But some messes, they're worth the cleanup. And this one, she was worth everything.
Back to Isabella's perspective. Okay, so you know how in rom-coms, the guy does this huge, over-the-top gesture to win the girl back. And she's so moved that she can't help but forgive him immediately. Yeah, well, I'm here to tell you that's complete and utter nonsense. Absolutely ridiculous. And yet, somehow, I found myself in the middle of one of the most absurd, heart-pounding, and, dare I say, theatrical moments of my life. So, here's the thing. I'm sitting at my desk, trying to pretend I'm busy probably making an Excel spreadsheet of my life choices. Or, more realistically, I'm browsing the internet for ways to finally fix my disaster of a dating life when suddenly, music in the office changes. Not just a little background music, mind you, but the kind of music that makes you think, wait, did someone just press the dramatic love story button? Before I even realize what's happening, the door to my office bursts open, and I see Noah standing there. I kid you not, he's wearing a full-on tuxedo, looking like he just walked off the set of a romance movie. Behind him there are flash mob dancers. Yes, dancers. They're all dressed in matching outfits. And they start doing the most choreographed routine I've ever seen in my life to my favorite song. My favorite song. Like, the one I sing in the car with way too much passion while I pretend no one can hear me. I'm just sitting there, completely frozen in disbelief. What is happening? Is this some kind of fever dream? Did I accidentally eat a bad sandwich for lunch and this is the universe's way of telling me I'm going insane? But no, the dancers are real. They're flipping, spinning, and enthusiastically waving their arms in the air in front of my very shocked colleagues, who are equally confused but secretly loving the drama. I glance at my boss, who is clapping along like he's a part of this too, and I'm left wondering if everyone in this office has lost their minds. And then, just when I think things can't get any weirder, Noah. Yes, Noah, the man who's been stringing me along, toying with my heart like it's a game, steps forward, clears his throat, and delivers the speech of lifetime. I was wrong, Isabella. He starts, and immediately I'm like, oh, okay. Here we go. This is going to be great. He's got the serious, sincere look on his face, like he's about to drop a truth bomb, and I can't help but pay attention. He continues, I manipulated your feelings, and I let my fear of chaos control me. But the truth is, I've fallen for you. Not in spite of your chaos, but because of it. My jaw drops. Seriously, my jaw actually hits the floor. Was that real? Did he just admit that he's been attracted to me this whole time, despite all my flailing around like a human disaster zone? It's like he's read my mind, but without the part where I want it to be, a little more dignified about it. Then, to really seal the deal, Noah gets down on one knee, yes, down on one knee, like we're in a fairy tale. He looks up at me, eyes full of vulnerability and, I dare say, a touch of fear. Isabella, he says, voice trembling ever so slightly, which I'll admit, did something to my heart. I'm sorry for playing with your emotions, for not being upfront with you. But I want you to know I love you. I love your madness. I love your chaos. I love that you always make life interesting. Please, give me a chance to make it right. And there I am, sitting at my desk, trying not to completely lose my cool. Everyone's watching. The whole office is now in on the weirdest, most public apology I've ever witnessed. I can feel the weight of the moment. The heartfelt confession. The dancer's God, the dancers. It's like one of those scenes in a movie where I'm supposed to swoon and fall into his arms. But here's the problem. I don't. Not immediately. Because, let's be real, this whole grand gesture was insane. And I've been insane enough for the both of us already. I need a minute. A moment. So I stand up slowly, and I give Noah my most composed. Yet subtly, what the heck is wrong with you? Look, he's staring up at me with puppy dog eyes, and part of me is like, this is so much to handle. But the other part of me is weirdly touched. I mean, come on. This was not the apology I was expecting when I walked into work this morning. You think you can just waltz in here, with a flash mob and a public apology, and I'm supposed to just say okay, let's try this again. I ask, trying my best to sound as unbothered as possible. But there's a crack in my voice that betrays me. Noah, still on one knee, looks up at me with that ridiculous sincerity, and says, Isabella, I'd do anything to make this right. Please, don't say no. I stare at him for a beat, taking in the absurdity of the whole situation. The dancers are still in the background, trying to look casual. But clearly, this isn't their first rodeo. I clear my throat and fold my arms, playing it cool even though inside I'm a mess of emotions. All right, Mr. Wilson, I say with a smirk. You've got one shot, but let's make it clear. If I see one more flash mob in the next 24 hours, I'm out. He stands up quickly, looking both relieved and delighted. Deal, he says, grinning like a man who's just won the lottery. And that, my friends, is how Noah Wilson somehow managed to win my heart with a flash mob. I know what kind of self-respecting woman lets herself be wooed by a flash mob. Who am I? Some sort of rom-com character who lets a public apology slide just because it's dramatic enough to make me question my entire existence. But here's the thing. I'm skeptical, a realist at heart. And let's be honest, Noah was a problem I had been avoiding for far too long. Sure, his grand gesture had the emotional impact of a Hallmark movie. But that didn't mean I was ready to throw all my self-control out the window. Nope, not yet. So I stood there, in the middle of my office, watching Noah grin like he had just won an Olympic gold medal in the Please Forgive Me event. And there I was, arms crossed, trying to hide the fact that my heart was doing some sort of weird, confused, conflicted cha-cha inside my chest. I looked down at him, then over at the dancers who were all awkwardly trying to act like they weren't part of the most ridiculous flash mob ever choreographed. I cleared my throat and gave Noah a pointed look. I said, in my best I'm trying to be stern but secretly dying inside voice. You really think you can just show up here, with a bunch of people doing pirouettes and expect me to magically fall back into your arms? He looked up at me with those puppy dog eyes, clearly hoping for some sort of miracle. Isabella, please, I'll do anything to make this right. Just give me a chance. I stood there for a moment, letting him squirm, And I'll be honest, it was kind of fun to watch him sweat. But I knew deep down that I wasn't going to let this pass without giving him a little challenge. After all, if I let him off the hook too easily, what message would that send? That I was just some soft touch who was swept off her feet by a flash mob. Please? So, I said, finally letting out a dramatic sigh, I'll give you another chance. But, and this is important, you're going to have to do things my way, Noah Wilson. No more flash mobs. Okay. I'm not going to let you serenade me in front of all my coworkers again. That was a one-time only special. He nodded, eagerly, his eyes practically sparkling. Deal. I'll do anything you want. I swear I'll. Anything. I raised an eyebrow, smirking. Anything, he repeated, like I had just promised him a lifetime supply of free coffee. Good. Then our first date's going to be adventurous. But also low-key. You know, balance. We're going to go hiking, yes. Hiking because I'm not entirely heartless. And I'll give you a workout. But then, after that, we're having dinner at that quiet little restaurant where no one will interrupt us. And we can actually have a conversation that doesn't involve you dancing in front of a crowd. His face lit up, like I had just handed him the keys to a private island. Hiking and dinner. That sounds perfect. You got it. So off we went, with me trying to ignore the fact that I felt mildly excited. Okay, fine. I was a little bit excited. Maybe it was the fact that I hadn't been on a date in forever, or maybe it was because Noah, the man who had been so annoyingly composed, was finally letting go and embracing my kind of chaos. I should have known something would go hilariously wrong. I mean, this was me we were talking about. On the way to the hiking trail, I managed to almost trip over a root, which, to my credit, was a very aggressive root. Noah caught me just in time, of course, but he was laughing, and I was, naturally, mortified. Smooth, I muttered under my breath, trying to pretend I wasn't secretly pleased that he was amused by my general lack of coordination. Nice save though, Noah teased, his eyes sparkling. Maybe I should take notes on how to avoid roots. I rolled my eyes, but secretly, I couldn't help but smile. The man had a point. I was basically an accident waiting to happen. But at least I made things interesting. We eventually made it to the summit of the trail, where I felt a brief moment of triumph before realizing that I was absolutely out of breath. My legs were on fire, and I'd forgotten to bring water. But hey, I still had a stunning view of the city, which I could barely appreciate because I was too busy trying not to pass out. So, Noah said, as he casually pulled out a water bottle, because apparently he had his act together in every department except for love. This isn't exactly the quiet dinner you had in mind, but I think we're balancing things pretty well, don't you? I gave him a look, trying to hide my amusement. We're balancing, I said slowly, but only because I'm still physically alive after that hike. If I collapse on this rock in a few minutes, I'm going to need you to carry me out of here. Got it, he laughed, shaking his head. Deal. And that's when I realized something pretty profound. This wasn't about him changing for me, or me changing for him. We were two wildly different people, and yet somehow there was a balance forming. A balance between my unpredictable, slightly reckless energy, and his calm, controlled demeanor. It was messy, but it was real. We were evolving together, figuring out how to make it work without one person forcing the other to fit into some cookie-cutter version of romance. The dinner afterward was cozy, low-key, and definitely involved way too much pasta and tiramisu, which I regretted immediately, but hey, at least I didn't have to do anything dramatic to get him to like me. No flash mobs needed for this date, and honestly, it was perfect. By the end of the night, when Noah drove me back to my apartment, I realized something else. Love wasn't about forcing your partner into some mold, or changing them into the perfect person. It was about understanding and accepting the chaos, the weirdness, and the messiness of each other, and still finding a way to enjoy it together. So here we are, me and Noah, the couple that somehow defied all logic, making it work even though we were two totally different flavors of ice cream. He's vanilla with a touch of sophistication, and I'm more like a chaotic swirl of sprinkles, caramel sauce, and a dash of mystery. But somehow it works. Go figure. As our relationship grows, I've learned to temper my wild, impulsive nature kind of while still keeping my spark. Sure, I don't break into spontaneous dance moves in the middle of crowded coffee shops anymore. Okay, mostly not anymore. But I'm still the same woman who'll order pizza at 3 a.m. just to try the exclusive limited time topping. I'll always have that flair for the dramatic. But now, Noah actually supports it instead of silently questioning his life choices. Whenever I announce I'm about to make a decision that will likely end with a fire extinguisher being involved. Noah, on the other hand, has learned that not everything needs to be planned to the second. I know, it's shocking. The man who used to schedule his meals and organize his socks by color has started to embrace the thrill of, dare I say it, spontaneity. For instance, last weekend, he suggested we take a last-minute road trip to the beach. A road trip, people. No itinerary, no map, just a vague idea of where the ocean is, just us, a rented car, and a whole lot of snacks. I was basically ready to have a panic attack about the lack of preparation. But Noah was all, don't worry. I packed the essential snacks and a playlist, and honestly, that was probably the best weekend of our relationship. We got lost twice, ate way too much junk food, and ended up watching the sunset while sitting on a beach towel that we forgot to shake the sand off of before using. Romantic, right? But here's the thing. We've learned to balance each other out. I help him loosen up, and he helps me focus. For example, when I decided I needed to bake cookies at 11 p.m. because the universe was clearly telling me it was cookie time, Noah was there to stop me from setting the kitchen on fire. Okay, so maybe I set off the smoke alarm once while trying to make cookies. But Noah just stood there, laughing, holding a fire extinguisher like a firefighter who was more than prepared for my kitchen disasters. We've learned that sometimes life is just funny. He still calls me his unpredictable storm, and I've started calling him the calm before my next mental breakdown. And honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way. There's a beautiful kind of resilience we've found in each other. For every crazy adventure I drag him on, he drags me into moments of stillness, like when he insists on making coffee together on a Sunday morning, even though I'm usually running on 3 hours of sleep and the promise of caffeine. We stand side by side, in comfortable silence, and I think about how, for the first time in forever, I don't need to plan every single thing. I don't need to overthink or force anything. With Noah, I've learned to just be, and that, I've realized, is a pretty big deal. When life throws us challenges because, spoiler alert, it does, we face them together, with humor. Like that one time I almost convinced him to adopt a dog on a whim, only to panic when I realized we couldn't even agree on a name. So we ended up spending the next 3 hours Googling names for the dog that we didn't even have yet. But it was honestly the best bonding experience ever. In the end, we just ended up with a cat because, well, we're nothing if not complicated. But here's the truth. Our differences, they're not a problem, they're a superpower. Where Noah's calm and reserved, I'm chaotic and spontaneous, and together, we make something that works in its own messy and predictable and hilarious way. We complement each other in the most unexpected ways, and it's honestly kind of perfect. The real lesson here is that love doesn't come in a perfect, neatly wrapped package. It comes with a lot of laughs, a few bumps along the way, and a ton of growth. And, frankly, I wouldn't have it any other way. So now, when people ask us how we do it, I just tell them, we found our balance. It's not about one of us changing to fit the other. It's about embracing our quirks, our differences, and everything in between. Noah and I, we figured it out one disaster at a time. And honestly, I think we make a pretty great team. We're learning, growing, and most importantly laughing through it all. And if that's not a recipe for success, I don't know what is. Their relationship begins with a fresh perspective. Isabella learns to temper her intensity without losing herself, while Noah embraces spontaneity and excitement. Together, they face the ups and downs of love with humor and heart. Story ends. Thanks for listening. See you again for another silly story.